and thank you for watching today's Parent Chat. We're discussing helping children manage stress. Some may think children don't experience stress. What do they have to be stressed about? They don't have to go to work every day, they don't have to pay bills or attend meetings. They get to run around and play. What's stressful about that? Even though children don't have the same responsibilities as adults, they still experience stress. For one thing, children haven't lived as long as adults and haven't had the same life circumstances that many adults have had, and also learned to navigate and overcome. So, for children, things that might seem small to us as adults can seem much larger and more stressful to them. Whether a child or adult, we all experience stress at some time. And when we do, our bodies respond in multiple ways. Stress impacts multiple systems of our bodies, as you can see here, including our muscular, our respiratory, our cardiovascular. In general, our bodies are preparing us to be able to handle the danger that the body is sensing. And you might have heard of the fight, flight, or freeze response. And that's in the case of when our bodies sense that there is a danger approaching, we're either going to lash out and be prepared to fight. So this could be verbally or physically, or flight, like get away from the situation and leave. Or some people, they freeze up. They're not responsive when people try to talk to them and it's just like can't make a decision in that moment. These responses are good and fine in the moment if that stress is just temporary. So let's say, for instance, a child is running out to a road and we see an oncoming car. We don't want our bodies to have to stop and think about what it has to do to protect that child. We want it to respond right away, and so that we can get to that child and be able to protect them in that moment. The problem comes when stress is lasting and there's no buffer or no coping skills or calming skills to be able to protect yourself against those stressors. And for a child, when there's no one to help them do those things. In general, there's been stress has been divided into three categories, and this is from the Harvard University Center on the Developing Child. And those categories are positive, tolerable, and toxic. To start with, positive stress is short term, and with that, for a child, it's usually a loving, caring, nurturing adult is present to help them navigate that. And these are things that we want children to be able to experience. Things like the first day of school. For some children, that's going to be really stressful, but it's also good and a nurturing thing. It's good for them to get an education. It's good to get to be around peers and get to make friendships. We want children to be able to experience this. Nonetheless, it's stressful for them. The same with maybe a new babysitter. Let's say an adult wants to go out for a date night or a time with friends. That is good and healthy for an adult to get to experience some of those things and take time for themselves, is assuming that caregiver is a good and healthy person. Um, but this could be stressful for a child who's not used to that person. And same with a move, that a change in environment and unfamiliarity for a child, all these things and much more can be stressful for a child. The key is that the adult is there to help them navigate those and support them in that moment. And there's going to be a short term, there's going to be an end to it. A helicopter parent is a common term that's used, but there's also a newer term called lawnmower parent that in this circumstance, the parent is like plowing ahead before the child and mowing down all the obstacles that a child may face. And so the child is not experiencing as many stressors and difficulties because the parent has taken care of those. Those are, it's not what we want to do. We want our child to be able to experience some stressors so that they can engage in life to the full, and also that they can learn to navigate and build skills to handle when they do experience some stressors. They're going to come, and ultimately, they're going to face bigger stressors in life at a time. Probably you're not going to be there, be able to be there to protect them from them. So they need to know how to handle those things. Beyond positive stress, there's tolerable stress. Um, and this is a longer duration and generally more serious things. Included in this, it could be a death of a loved one. That's not going to be a short resolution. Grief and loss are an ongoing thing and often come up at later points, maybe around a birthday or a holiday. You're reminded of that loss of that loved one. natural disaster, serious illness. These are things that are going to keep cropping up and affect somebody for longer term. But the key, again, is that there's a loving, nurturing relationship with a parent or grandparent, caregiver that is there to help a child buffer that stress and so they don't feel the full effect of that. The last one is toxic stress. And this, again, is a long term stressor. But in this case, there is no adult present or the adult is inconsistent in their love and nurture. So let's say, for instance, a parent is loving and affectionate one day, but then an hour later, they're yelling and verbally abusive to their child. That child's never going to know what parent they're going to get. And so they're going to be at a heightened state of stress, preparing for that parent that's going to be upset and yelling at them and verbally abusive to them. Circumstances in this toxic range can be included as abuse, neglect, severe poverty, and without a loving, nurturing relationship with an adult to help the child buffer that, that stress response system stays activated and can have long-term implications for a child's health, their social interactions, and emotional well-being as well. Not to mention altering brain development for that child. So it's really key that a child has support from that adult. Um, for that adult relationship, the Harvard Center on the Developing Child says this: strengthening stable and responsive relationships in the earliest years of life can literally block excess activation of stress hormones and protect children from potentially damaging effects. So there are many damaging effects of that toxic stress, but it just takes one adult to be present for a child, even if those stressors have already occurred for that child, for that adult to come in and be a nurturing, loving presence for that child can not only help buffer the current stressors, but also start to protect them from some of those previous stressors and kind of step back some of those effects that they've already experienced. But to be able to be that person for a child, we have to take care of ourselves first. So if you've ever flown, they will tell you to put on your oxygen mask first. This kind of goes counterintuitive for an adult, especially a parent who loves and cares for their child. The natural response is to want to protect your child first. But that does no good if we're suffocating and can't breathe and therefore can't take care of our child. The same goes with stressors. If we're in the midst of lots of stress and we're struggling to cope because of that stress, we're not going to be able to be fully present and nurturing to our children if they are starting to experience things. So, first, we have to take some time for ourselves. It's not selfish, it's good and healthy for both us and our children. And once we have done that, then we can start engaging with them and supporting them when they're experiencing stress. Some things we can do is we want to validate their feelings. If they're feeling stressed about something, acknowledge that in the situation, even if it seems small to us. It's for your child, it's real, and they're in the moment, and maybe they just don't know how to handle it yet, or this is the first time they're encountering it. So teach them and walk through it with them. Getting down on a child's level can be really helpful if they're feeling stressed. If your child's at a heightened emotional state and we're towering above them, that's a good height differential between a child and an adult. And that can be intimidating. So, coming down on their level is building connection with them um, and coming alongside them in that. If we know a child is in the midst of toxic stress or they experience toxic stress, one thing that you can do rather than like this picture shows being face to face is just simply being more like shoulder to shoulder, coming alongside them. Reason being, if a child is in the midst of toxic stress, their stress response system is elevated and they're ready to fight, flight, or freeze. And so, we being face to face might be too intimidating for them. Simply coming alongside them um, could be more effective in that moment. Also, modeling coping skills is important for a child to see that you experience stress too. It's part of life, but it's also manageable and we can overcome it. So, simply saying, I've had a rough day, I had a lot to do, and I need to stop and take a moment to take some deep breaths, listen to music, go for a run, whatever it is that works for you. Let your child know that those are the things that you do and let them see you doing them. Our relationship with a child can not only help them navigate stressors, but we can also start teaching them the things that they can do on their own to navigate that stress, so that when you're not present, they know what they can do. There are some activities that can also help children decrease stress. So for adults, it's good to not just do coping skills when you're in the midst of stress, but also some maintenance coping skills. So, maybe you work out 3 times a week, or have a regular time where you get together with friends. Same with kids. Having some things that you regularly do can help keep the stress level more lowered in general. Some of these activities, I always include deep breathing because it's one you don't need anything for, and you can do anywhere that where you are. So it's a quick and simple thing that you can do, even if you're in the midst of other people as well. Gross motor activities, those, just like for adults, a lot of times exercise is listed as a coping skills. Getting up and moving our bodies can help relieve some of that stress. Well, same with children, but for them, it often looks like running, jumping, climbing, playing, and even in colder climates, doing things when you can't get outside, or rainy days, having something where they can get up and move is really beneficial. Sensory activities. So, like this little guy squeezing some Play-Doh in your hands, and or playing in a sand tray, blowing some bubbles, lifting some heavy objects. Maybe one that they commonly use at school settings was, "Can you carry these reams of paper for me?" That sensation of carrying heavy objects can be helpful to relieve some of that sensory need in the midst of stress. Music, mindfulness, muscle relaxation. One of other responses to stress is that our muscles tighten, and that can lead to pain and headaches and discomfort. So, teaching children to help relax those muscles can relieve some of those things. One thing that you can do is just start with a part of the body, like your hand, for instance, and tell the child to tighten the fist, and then slowly practice relaxing that. And you can do that with like your toes and your legs, and slowly work through parts of your body. Also, healthy eating and just maintaining a healthy lifestyle can help reduce stress. There are many sites and companies out there that can offer activities. There's just a few that I enjoy. Mind Yeti is a good mindfulness and relaxation site for kids. You can find it searching on YouTube, or just doing a Google search, or typing it in your search engine. Sesame Street and Communities and PBS for Parents um, have a lot of social emotional activities and resources for parents. On Sesame Street, I really like that they have some get up and move songs and videos for kids. So, like on those rainy days that you can't get outside, they can still get up and move. Um, PBS as well has many of those, some sensory activities that you can do with your child. So, encourage you to, if you're looking for some resources in those areas, check out both of these sites. Also, Gonoodle is a great funny video site. You can find it by searching in search engine or on YouTube. Um, it helps kids get up and move and relieve stress in that way. I looked at a couple of great sites for putting this together. Harvard University Center on the Developing Child and Penn State Extension Better Kid Care have a lot of great resources. As always, continue to watch our YouTube channel. We have over 180 videos now of various social emotional topics. So you can search on our YouTube page if there's a specific topic that you're looking for, or you can always reach out to us at CRC if there's a topic that you can't find and you're searching for some information. Also, you can follow us on Facebook. We're regularly updating our site there with social and emotional topics. Thank you for watching, and hope this has been helpful.